Hi, I'm Mel Van Dusen. Welcome. Have you ever returned from an exciting vacation and wondered why you couldn't maintain that sense of adventure at home? Well, I've often wondered this myself, and I really wish that someone would write a book about this. Well, fortunately, we have someone here today who has written a book about it. Her name is Karen Mehringer, and her book is Sail into Your Dreams: 8 Steps to Living a More Purposeful Life. Karen, I'm so glad you wrote this book.
Thank you, Mel. It's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Yeah. Now, Karen, how did you come to, let's start with this. You were living in Seattle, and what was life like for you in Seattle?
Life was pretty routine. So my husband and I both had good corporate jobs, a nice house in the suburbs, 2 wonderful cars in the garage, and from the outside, it looked like life was really good. But on the inside, we felt like we were dying. We would come home from work tired and drained and just plop in front of the TV and, drink a glass of wine. And it just felt like there was something missing. So it was rather dissatisfying, although we were happily married. And, on the outside, like I said, it looked really good.
Mm-hmm. And you're also a therapist. And I think you do something called energy transformations. In your therapeutic work, have you found this constellation of characteristics typical for people, or?
I think people in general are searching for meaning, and one of the things that we found during our travels was that we just move so fast here, that a lot of times people don't know what it is that they truly want, or what is meaningful to them, what is purposeful for them.
Mm-hmm. So you were in Seattle, and what made you change your lifestyle?
Like I said, we're feeling dissatisfied, so we just started talking. What are our passions? What makes us feel alive? And one of the things that we agreed on was sailing. So we joined a sailing club, took sailing lessons, and began reading books and magazines about people that would just take off from their ordinary lives to cruise and travel to different countries. So that was what inspired us, and that's what got us thinking, we don't have to live day to day like this. We can break out of the box and try something new.
Mm-hmm. And when you were on the verge of trying something new, what did your friends think about what you were about to do?
They were inspired.
They were?
Yeah, they were very encouraging, and wow, I can't believe you guys are doing this. Basically, we took a year off, we rented the house, took a leave of absence from our jobs, put everything in storage, found homes for our pets. So they were inspired. They thought, wow, you guys, look what you're doing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Did you feel any fear or any trepidation about?
Absolutely.
Tell me about it.
There were dreams about tidal waves, headaches, stomach aches, fear of the unknown, because not only were we traveling to 8 different countries, but we were taking time off to reinvent our lives. Where were we going to live when we came back? What kind of work would we do? Mm-hmm. It was a time of total transformation and reinvention. So there was a lot of unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell us about your trip. What was it about it that began to change your life? What analogies did you see between the act of sailing and what you could apply to your life at home?
Yeah, so the decision after taking the sailing lessons was to crew on a sailboat. That way we wouldn't have to invest our money in buying a boat. We could crew on someone else's boat for only $10 a day. And we started in Fiji, went to 6 different countries, and then did some overland traveling. And the most inspiring thing was seeing how other people lived, and seeing how simply they lived in community, in connection with the land, with very little materially. There were villages that we visited that people were missing teeth. They lived in these little huts. And they were the happiest people I'd ever seen in my life. Just the sparkle in their eye, the sparkle in their smile.
And you yourself went through something like that on a sailboat. You had very few possessions. You felt freed up from that also. Absolutely.
It was the most amazing experience, not to have cell phone, not to have TV, no internet, and just a duffel bag. 1 duffel bag for 8 months. Absolutely incredible experience.
Cite another experience that you had while traveling.
One that really stands out in my mind is anchoring off the coast of Wai'a, a beautiful island in Fiji, and going on a 2-hour hike, getting really hot, running out of food and water. But we had heard there was a village on the other side of the island, so we continued on, and eventually came down the hill to a ceremony. And there were about 200 native Fijians in grass skirts and drinking kava and celebrating a community building. And so we came upon the ceremony, and they invited us afterwards to a luncheon, sitting on the floor, Fijian style, eating with our hands. It was absolutely wonderful.
And how did that make you feel?
It made me feel alive, to see how it made me feel really good and warm inside that they included us. They were so friendly and so warm, just, to have us not know anything about us and, oh, come join our celebration.
Was that an awakening for you? Had you experienced something like this at home?
I had never experienced anything like that at home, I can't say. No, it was a new experience, yeah.
One thing I've noticed throughout your book, here and there, you say, I could die, we could die, I may die. And I recalled reading that your father passed away when he was 64, 9 months after he retired.
That's right. When we came back from our sailing trip, at first we rented a little bungalow by the beach in San Diego and had a wonderful lifestyle, and then slowly started getting back into the old lifestyle again of working just to pay the mortgage. And that's when my father passed away. And before the sailing trip, we had a vision of living in a cabin in the mountains and owning a sailboat. So when he passed away, we decided this is the time to do it, because he worked for the same company for 34 years, got a call one day that he was sick, and basically 6 to 8 weeks later, he was gone. So we thought, wow, he just retired 9 months previously. We need to live our dreams now. So.
One of the reasons I'm so glad that you're on the show is because my father died about 11 years ago. And right after he died, it hit me. My God, I'm next. Time really is limited. I've got to do what I really want to do in this life. And one thing I want to do is travel. And I traveled around the world and had many experiences like yours. And when I came back, I wanted to know how I could maintain some sense of adventure or some sense of stimulation in my life, some sense of continual learning. And so that's why I'm so glad that you wrote this book. So has death had any impact on the way you view life?
Absolutely. When we
Tell me.
first came back, my 15-year-old brother passed away from cystic fibrosis. So just as we were adjusting to being back in our culture, he passed away. 3 years and 3 days later, my father passed away. And then 8 other family members and friends the last several years have passed away. So it's been a huge influence in my life as far as just going for it. And also just not fearing death. Being with my brother as he was dying, being with my father as he was dying, and watching their last breath and the peace that they were in as they died gave me a sense of peace about just going for it in life and not being afraid of death. Because I think that's one of the biggest fears that we have as far as taking risks.
How can a fear of death prevent us from taking risks?
Well, for example, when we were sailing, we encountered storms at sea. So someone might say, well, I'm not going to go sailing because what about tidal waves? What about storms? What about diseases, malaria? So that might keep you from taking risks. So I think in a big way, that fear keeps us from taking risks and really living fully.
So there's a difference between fear of death and awareness of it.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
Awareness of death might motivate you to take risks, to live a full life. Yeah. Now you've got 8 steps to living a more purposeful life. And as I was reading your book, I underlined many, many things, and I thought, my God, how am I going to interview this woman with so much underlined, interesting stuff? So I'd like to cite each step and get your comments on it. Step 1, be authentic. Plot your own course. Know who you are. My question to you is, how can we tell if we are out of alignment with our truth?
The biggest way that I can tell how I'm out of alignment is by checking in with myself every day. So I do a journaling and meditation process nearly every morning, and I listen to my body. So when my body's off, or there's an ache or a pain, then I know that something's not right in my world. And so I go within and I ask the question, what's out of alignment? What's off here? Yeah.
Okay. You also, at the very beginning, cited how we can imagine ourselves as great spiritual beings of light, co-creators with Divinity, I suppose it is. Could you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, part of the journey for me in going for my dreams has been about awakening to who I really am as that spiritual being, and that strength and that power, and becoming empowered. And really being aware of shining that out and vibrating that out into the world in everything that I do. So it's a process. It's been a process of remembering, a process of awakening, and the things, experiences like my father's death, like my brother's death, traveling overseas. I believe those things add to that. Yeah.
In the New Age movement, I think many people are critical of people who imagine light to the exclusion of being aware of their own darkness. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I've been very aware of my shadow. I'm very aware of both,
Mm-hmm.
the shadow, and the darker energies, the fear, and that's been a huge part of my journey too, is transforming those energies, those darker energies, so that there is more room for the light and the love to shine through.
Yeah. Once you're aware of the darkness, then there's more room for maybe
I think
the
as
light.
you're aware of it, but then also work to transform it.
Right, but not
Yeah.
ignore it.
Oh, absolutely not. And I don't think it ever completely goes away.
Right.
So as I experience more light and love, it's still there.
Okay.
I'm just, yeah.
Yeah. Step 2,
Yeah.
navigate the sea of change, create room. You said life was so simple on the boat, but our life is also cluttered up with a lot of other things. So what do you mean by make room in your life?
There's several ways to make room. There's physically, so the clutter, the material possessions that we don't need or use. There's emotionally, the baggage that we carry, the hurt, the pain, the anger from the past. And also there are things that drain our energy, like toxic relationships, jobs that we hate, ways that we spend our time and energy that aren't in alignment with who we are. So basically creating room is about letting go so that we can move forward in a more purposeful and passionate way.
Yeah. You've even said that our homes are too big now.
Oh my God.
And our homes are kind of a burden on us. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to be a real estate agent, and I used to go into people's homes, and they would have these enormous houses, but I invariably found that they like to kind of snuggle up in a small corner near the kitchen, and they would leave all these rooms vacant. So why do people have big homes? Why do they insist on that?
I have no idea, but in Colorado especially, the homes are really big, and we just after 4 years of living in small cabins, the only home we could find in the area that we loved with the pine trees and the deer was a 3,000 square foot home, and we feel like it's,
Uh-oh.
hello, it's very different. So,
So it's important to release the past, release the things of the past that define us incorrectly.
yeah, and things have energy. So when we hold on to, whether they're memories, places where we're not forgiving ourselves or others, or it's a material object, everything I think of is in terms of energy. So as we're growing and expanding, we need to release the old energy in our lives in all ways. Yeah.
When you came back to this country, did you experience a kind of culture shock?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Okay. I have a little story.
Okay.
Okay, so we had experienced storms at sea, went to 8 different countries,
Yes.
experienced exotic cultures, and the scariest part of our trip was coming home and driving on the LA freeway from LA to San Diego. It was absolutely terrifying. We moved so fast here, and then going into a grocery store, absolutely overwhelming. So many choices. It took me at least 4 to 6 months just to feel comfortable getting on the freeway.
You felt overwhelmed and cluttered.
Absolutely.
Right. Step 3. Up anchor and raise the sails. Participate in life. Become conscious of our decisions, behaviors, so we can navigate a safe passage to a more purposeful life. Talk to us about that, navigating a safe passage to a more purposeful life.
In this chapter, what I'm talking about is similar to creating room, but it's about the distractions. It's about the ways that we give up the helm. So basically what I'm saying is take control of the helm, turn off the TV, turn off your cell phone.
No, don't do
Set
it.
out, not these TVs.
Not yet, after the show.
Yeah, after the show.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's about making conscious choices and setting boundaries, that's all.
Yes.
Yeah, setting boundaries with your time and your energy again. I'm going back to that thing about everything has energy. So being really aware of where are you putting your energy, where are you putting your time, your money, and how are you spending it, and how do you want to spend it?
Right. And when you said, when we watch TV and we sit in front of the computer surfing the net, and even on the cell phone, it's a way that we give up the helm. It keeps us from taking risks, and it numbs us.
It's a very numbing, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it makes us bystanders. I find that word important. It makes us bystanders to life.
Yeah, instead of watching the football game on TV, why not join a community football team or at least go to a football game,
Right.
you know? Yeah.
Okay, step 4, sail away from the safe harbor, take risks, leave your comfort zone. Talk to us about what is a safe harbor for people.
A safe harbor, well, from my experience, is about routine. So it's getting out of the routine to try something new, whether it's a new neighborhood, a new restaurant, or traveling to a new country, but just getting out of your comfort zone, kind of breaking out of the routine, so to speak.
And that routine, I think, would also include being fearful of strangers. And
Yeah.
being fearful of, talking to someone at a grocery store or talking to someone in a bookstore or just meeting people. I found that in other countries people are much less uptight. Have you found that here?
Yeah, I believe that to be true too. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, in your book, page 79, let me refer to this. I like this quote. When leaving our comfort zone, we are able to get out of the box and recreate our lives according to what feels right and good to us. New experiences enliven and awaken us, heighten our senses, and stir our passions. That is why travel is on most people's list of things to do before they die.
Yeah.
I found that really true. And if we can feel that in our regular lives here at home, I think that's a real plus.
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a birthday, and I had this plan of what I was going to do on my birthday. Oh, this would be fun, this would be fun. And my plan went out the window when the restaurant I wanted to go to for waffles was closed.
Uh-oh.
And so I just went with the flow, and I tried a new restaurant. I went to get a massage. It just happened to be next door to a massage place. And so I just completely let go of the plan, and everything I did that day was something new. And I felt so alive. It felt wonderful.
Right. Another thing you say is, if I speak my truth, I will be punished.
Oh. So in the chapter about fear,
Right.
one of my fears in becoming a writer is being known. So putting myself out there and being judged. And so some of this may go back to past life. It's maybe from, experiences in this life about being judged, but definitely needing to, as we get out of our comfort zones, a lot of times things come up that we need to work through and transform.
Yeah. And the fear of
Yeah.
being judged would, I imagine, cripple people.
Yeah, it's something I
lot.
really had to work through. Yeah.
Okay. And then you say, our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. Talk to us about that.
I think that goes back to the fear of judgment, honestly, because if we are powerful beyond measure, we're going to be out there, right?
Right.
And then people will be in the public eye more, will be known more. So people will have the opportunity to look at us and put us down and criticize us. So I believe that goes. And also just the fear of, if you're in your power and your light, other people going away. Like kind of almost like a fear of being lonely at the top or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we come to understand that we don't die or won't be annihilated, death won't be the end. I don't know if I've said that very well, but you've talked about death before. Talk to us about the fears that people have about, I guess, the death of their ego or death in general. Or you said in the book that death is not the end, physical death is not the end. How do you understand that?
Well, from some personal experience, after my brother died, he showed up several times in my life as a presence, and I could feel his presence. My sister saw him. She saw his light in a chair where he used to sit every night and talk to her. So for me, there's some very real experiences about death and the extension of life after death and the soul. Yeah.
I've been talking to a lot of people who've experienced that, and at first I think they hold off talking about it because they'll be judged.
Yeah.
I mean, and so with that in mind, it becomes a very personal thing, and they keep it to themselves, and they let it grow in themselves as kind of a personal thing. But I really want to thank you for bringing that up in the book.
Yeah.
That just knowing that such things exist, gives us a certain comfort.
Absolutely.
And maybe allows us to take risks, I think. Yeah. Okay, step 5, swim with the dolphins. The importance of community. I think you talked about that a bit, but did you find that on returning to the United States, people are somewhat isolated here?
Absolutely, very isolated here.
Tell us.
Yeah. Well, in our big houses, in our boxes, we go to work and we're in a box, and we come home and we're in a box. And what I found with these other countries, like I said, there may be a village very connected to the earth, and these little huts, so they're outside a lot. And some of this has to do with the weather, of course, in South Pacific and that kind of thing. But also what I found in Seattle before we left is that I would come home from work, literally do the garage door opener, hoping that my neighbors wouldn't see me, and just go in and then close it behind me. It was just a very strange way to live.
You did that?
Yeah, because I was so drained from my lifestyle and my life. It was like, oh, I just don't want to talk to anyone at the end of the day. It was very, very disconnected, very isolated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. On page 115 on your book, you say, if we lack self-love, we will expect others to build us up. And that can lead to dysfunctional relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that self-love really is the foundation for taking risks and doing what you love in the world. Because if you don't love yourself, you don't think you're worthy of being happy and being fulfilled, then you're not going to take those risks.
Do you think that, we live in a consumer society. Do you think that living in a consumer society fosters feelings of inadequacy?
Absolutely.
This
Yeah,
is
because there's never enough. That's an underlying consciousness is not enough, not good enough, not enough. So we've always got that playing in our minds because of the media, because of being in a consumer society.
We need to do more and make more money
Absolutely.
and have more. And what are some of the other things you've seen that related to the subtle messages that we're not good enough, we need to have something to make us worthy?
Yeah, or look a certain way, be slender. Some of these women that we met in Fiji, in their culture, it's very attractive to be large. But because they have Western TV coming into their culture, all of a sudden they're thinking they need to be slender and they need to be beautiful and look a certain way. And there's so much pressure on us. There's just so much pressure not to be okay just being who you are.
Right. On another part of your book, you said, there is nothing outside of ourselves that can offer us lasting satisfaction. Tell us.
Well, from my experience, it's the more simple lifestyle I have led, the happier I've been in a lot of ways. So the times where I was on the sailboat or in that little beach bungalow without all the things. And just finding that peace within, really going within, like I said, every day.
Can you give us some more ideas about how we can connect with all life and slowing down? Journaling would be one of them, you mentioned that.
Yeah, spending time in nature, so really taking time out to go on either a silent retreat or go on hikes, getting outdoors to connect. For me, that's been a huge way that I've been able to connect spiritually as well. Yeah.
Step number 7. We're almost at the end.
Yeah.
Look for the lighthouse in the storm. Transform adversity. We can face our trials with courage, or we can numb out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people choose to numb out because it's too painful. But if you face your trials with courage, not only can you transform them, but you can transcend them and make meaning out of your life. For example, I met a woman on the airplane the other day. Her sister and three nephews had been murdered. She is now a victim advocate. As she's transformed her grief and whatnot about this situation, she assists other people going through something similar. So that's what I mean about transforming adversity, making meaning out of it, making purpose out of it.
So meaning and purpose would kind of be the lighthouse?
Yeah.
Looking for the lighthouse
Yeah,
in
the
the
higher
storm of
purpose.
adversity?
Yeah.
Right. And again, some more of these things that numb us to life, as you cited in the book, are TV, food, work, the internet. Those are some things we do to numb out. If you can't think of anything more right now, we can go on to step number 8.
Okay.
All right. Sail downwind, surfing the waves, trust and let go. And I'll re-quote something I quoted a little while longer. Since we live in a culture that capitalizes on fear, how do we go with the flow? How do we do that in a culture that seems to capitalize on fear? Maybe you can tell us how this culture does capitalize on fear.
Well, we talked a little bit about that, just about the underlying mentality of not enough consciousness.
Right.
So needing to buy more, do more, be more. So that's one way it capitalizes on fear. The media, it's always showing the negativity, showing the destruction, because that's what gets people's attention, right? So there's so much negativity and fear-based media out there.
Right.
And
I suppose you could cite the government.
yeah.
Right.
And so doing things that are contradicting that, or not contradicting, but just finding that strength within and that peace within, and knowing that isn't, you don't have to buy into that. So it's a choice. You don't have to buy into that. You don't have to read the newspaper every day. You don't, that kind of thing.
So how do we let go of this fear? How do we let go of our attachments?
It's a continual process. I've found it's a very
You have not
challenging.
found a definitive answer to that?
Yeah,
It's
no,
always
well,
ongoing?
Well, for me, I found that I'm grieving, allowing the emotions to flow. So when the fear comes up, oh, that's what's going on. Okay, what do I need to do? Do I need to say a prayer mantra? I use these prayer beads, and I say affirmations. So whatever it is I'm feeling, if I'm feeling afraid, then it's, it's something to the effect of, I am pure love and joy. So something to counteract that anxiety. And exercise and meditation and massage and yoga. There's all kinds of tools out there. But I'm finding that it's interesting that I continually need to work on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Question. What for you is happiness?
Happiness for me is contentment and a sense of joy. So living from my heart, living from my joy.
Also toward the end of your book, you cite an artist. And she said, "It comes through me when I'm painting. I'm really not there. I'm in the flow. I'm at ease and at peace." I've heard a lot of artists talk about this. You know, it's not me who's doing this. It's somehow the artist connects with something and goes with the flow on that. I suppose you could call that a higher power. Would you like to talk about the relationship between the higher power, your connection with it, and the flow of life?
Yeah, I believe it's the same thing. And it's something that I've been working with lately in my speaking. When I get out of my own way and just allow the words to come, allow the expression to come, it's very empowering, and it's just an amazing feeling. And it happens with my writing too sometimes. I'll get in the flow and it's just like, wow, where did that come from? I won't even remember what I wrote. It's incredible.
Yeah. Karen, amazingly, we've covered all 8 points, 8 steps to living a more purposeful life. And, I think the people watching who maybe have traveled and who know what you're talking about, who have opened themselves up in travel, I think they'll be interested in reading this book. There's a lot in there. And I think the greatest gift you can give people is to teach them how to live a sense of adventure in the life we're living right here and now. Thank you so much for being on.